Before we get started, guys, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Chris Cabiya. I'm with Cabiya Realty Group at Real Broker, and I'm a licensed Texas realtor that helps people buy and sell properties here in the Austin, Texas market. I work with investors, buyers, and sellers, and can help anybody in the residential space get into a property or sell a property or raw land. So if you have questions about what it's like to get into real estate investing, or maybe you want to know, what it takes to buy a property or what it would look like if you wanted to sell your property, go to my website, send me an email, give me a call, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Now let's get into this deal. All right, guys, let's go over some of these property details. This is a single family home built in 1972. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,474 square foot home. It sits on just shy of a quarter acre. The total acreage is 0.219. Has a tax rate of 2.18%, bringing the annual taxes to approximately $7,000 a year. It's located in north central Austin, and the property condition was distressed. It needed quite a bit of work, and we'll talk about the scope of work here in just a minute. My email address down there is at the bottom. If you need to contact me, feel free to send me an email. Here you can clearly see the condition of the house whenever my client bought it. It needs quite a bit of work. The kitchen pictures here where you see the sink and the cabinets underneath the sink, all of that was completely rotted out, so they had to rip that whole section out. Right now, basically the whole kitchen is ripped out, and they're going back in with everything new. But this will kind of give you an idea of what the property looked like when we bought it. It didn't have a working HVAC. They were using window units to cool the property in the summer, and the central heat and air wasn't working, so that had to be replaced as well, along with quite a bit of other stuff, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. So this is a general scope of work that was required to be done to the property in order to bring it up to today's standards. As I mentioned, we had to replace the central heat and air. Both the interior and the exterior unit both got replaced. Complete kitchen remodel with new appliances. There's new flooring throughout the whole house. They had to remodel both of the bathrooms, new tub surrounds, new vanity, new toilet, everything brand new in both the bathrooms. There was some exterior siding repair and woodwork that needed to take place. There was some wood rot and some busted up panels that needed to be replaced. So that work is done. They replaced all the exterior windows in the house. The interior and the exterior doors were all replaced. New light switches, new electrical outlets, ceiling fans with light kits in every room. They also did some minor plumbing and electrical upgrades in the house as well where it was needed. And of course, interior and exterior paint. So that's the bulk of what was being done over there. I'm not sure if he's going to do a little bit of landscaping or not. It does have a rather large backyard that's fenced in with the privacy fence. Probably enough room back there to actually put an ADU or another unit if you could get a permit from the city, and you could increase the property value even more that way, or rent that little unit out to a tenant and get some more monthly income coming in. The total budget on this was estimated at $65,000, but of course it was allocated about $75,000 in the budget, in the construction budget, in case there's overages. Okay, financing costs. So this client opted to use a hard money loan, and I believe his financing was for a 12-month term at 11 or 12% interest only. I don't remember exactly the rate he got charged, but it's somewhere usually in between 10 and 12% with hard money lenders. His expenses, $3,100 approximately for the monthly expenses for the loan, and the loan cost was $7,600 in origination fees and taxes and everything to basically set the loan up. So those are essentially his financing costs, and he's budgeting to hold it for approximately 6 months. He's only had it for less than 2 months, and we're getting close to being done with the construction at this point. So one last point on the financing I wanted to mention before we move on to the purchase cost is that you can refinance out of that hard money loan if that's what you use to get into the property. Especially if you're planning on keeping the property as a rental unit and you're not going to sell it, it's very common for people to refinance into another loan. And in the example of a rental property, you can either go with some kind of traditional mortgage product, but what's really common is what's called debt service coverage ratio, or DSCR loans. And those basically, they look at the property and the income, the projected income the property can produce, and as long as that number covers the debt service plus a little bit more, you can qualify for a DSCR loan. They're not really looking at your personal credit history. What they're doing is they're looking at the property, and the property is what determines if it qualifies for a loan, not your personal credit. Now, they do look at your credit score, and they do look at your background and make sure that you're not broke and that you have enough money to, cover the loan cost and whatnot. They usually want to see a little bit in reserves as well. Each lender's different, but essentially you can just use the property to qualify for that loan, and they're not going to look at your W-2s or anything like that you would have to provide for a traditional mortgage. Another thing that's common is what's called a cash out refi. So they'll go to the bank and they'll say, hey, I bought this property for $260,000. It's now worth $450,000. I want to refinance and cash out. And so what the bank will do is they'll give you 75 to 80% of the equity that's in the property. So 75 to 80% of the ARV, and in this example that would be $450,000. And then out of that chunk, they'll pay off the hard money lender and any loans or mortgages that were associated with the first position, the first time you took out the loans to buy the property. And then anything that's left over, you keep as profit. And the cool thing about that is it's tax free because it's debt, it's not income. So there's no taxes on a cash out refi. Now you do have a monthly payment note, and of course that monthly mortgage payment's going to be higher because now you're not financing $260,000. Now you're financing 80% of $450,000. But if you've done the deal right, when you put a renter in there, that monthly rent should be enough to cover the mortgage payment plus some. So you'll actually pocket money and cash flow a little bit as the tenant is paying down your mortgage note, as the property is also increasing in value every year. You're also getting the tax advantages of owning the property, plus you got a big chunk of cash. It's tax free. So that's another common method that's used if you're going to use the property as a rental property when it comes to financing. If you're going to do what my seller is doing, what my client's going to do, he's just going to turn around and flip the property and sell it. Then basically what happens there is the proceeds from the sale will be used to pay back the hard money lender and also pay back any cash that the investor used to invest into that property, like a down payment or maybe any cost associated with that he spent on that investment. He'll pay himself back, and then there will be a nice little chunk left that's profit, and that goes in his pocket. Now there's different ways to mitigate the tax liabilities on that, like a 1031 exchange, some other different ways. Talk to your CPA if you have questions about that. But I just wanted to touch on the financing situation and how you can exit depending on what your strategy is, whether you're flipping or if you're gonna be a landlord and put renters in there. So now moving on to the purchase cost. So this is a boiled down version of what the actual costs were, but this is pretty close and will get us in the neighborhood. So the house was purchased for $260,000. There was a construction budget of $65,000, but there was an allotment for overages. So the lender actually qualified him for about $75,000 in construction cost. So there's basically like a line of credit there, going up to $75,000 for those construction costs. The total loan amount that he was borrowing from the hard money lender was $309,000. He put down $5,100 to secure the contract in earnest and option money. There was that $7,600 origination fee that we talked about on the financing cost. There was tax there too that got added in from one of the lenders there. Then you got a tax credit back from the seller for $2,400. He had to pay $2,400 in insurance, so that kind of canceled itself out. And on the closing settlement, the total loan balance was $349,000. So it took him $33,000 in cash to close. So he had to bring $33,000 to the closing table. And if I'm not mistaken, on this deal, I think he might have used a gap lender and got most of that $33,000 loaned to him from another lender. So I think he came out of pocket even with a smaller amount of cash. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but I think he leveraged the majority of this property, including the down payment. So keep that in mind if this is something that you're thinking about doing. All right, so now that we've talked about the cost of acquisition and the cost of construction, let's look at what the property can potentially sell for. So I pulled market stats from that zip code that go back 6 months. So it'll give us an accurate representation of what is going on in that market. And these are just averages. You know, it fluctuates house to house, neighborhood to neighborhood, but these are good baseline numbers that you can use to look at when you're kind of trying to determine market value of a nice property that's been fixed up in this zip code, in this area. So on the left here, you'll see estimated home values, and you'll see that the median estimated home value in 78753 is approximately $434,000. Right below that, you'll see a market snapshot, and what this is expressing is this is the 12-month change in estimated value. So you'll see a small decrease there of 3.33%, 2.04%, and it hasn't been enough to change that median home value. Everything, within the last year or so is still median home price over there is approximately $434,000. But I do want you to pay attention to the change over the last 36 months. That last box there, it's gone up 14.56%. So that's a good indication that property values are increasing in that area, and that's a number that you want to see. You want to see it going up, not down, if you're looking to purchase investment properties in a certain area. Now, the table on the right is a market snapshot of the sales price. So the left were estimated values based on homes that have sold, based on homes that are for sale. They aggregate all that data, and that's how they get that value. The table on the right are properties that have actually sold and what people are listing properties for. So what they're putting them on market for. So they're putting them on market on average for $415,000. So still a good bit above that $400,000 number. So over $400,000 is what the average listing price is in this area, and the median sales price is $355,000. So the reason for that is you've got a lot of homes in this zip code that are older and that are kind of run down. There's more of those in this zip code than there are of the ones that have been fixed up, which can command a higher price. So that's why you see that median sales price dip below $400,000. But when you look at the estimated median home value at $434,000, and you look at the median list price of $415,000, those are good indicators that the average home in that area is going to fall somewhere in between that $415,000 on up to $450,000. There's some in this neighborhood that have sold for well over $500,000, but these are averages, so this will give you a ballpark idea of where the average home is going to land. It'll help you help you determine your property value whenever you go to put it on market and sell it. Now, before we move on from the market stats, I wanted to bring this table to your attention. This is another statistic that I pulled, and on the left column you'll see new listings in orange, and on the right hand column you'll see closed sales. Now, it's important that you understand that in the world of real estate, what somebody is asking for the property really doesn't hold as much weight when it comes to home values as properties that have actually sold. And the reason for that is people can ask whatever they want for their property. It doesn't mean they're going to get it. But most people are not going to overpay for a property. So whenever you see the closed sales, those are houses that somebody has paid money for and bought. And that is the best indication of what the market value is going to be for homes of a similar square footage, bed, bath, lot size, everything. If it's all similar and they're within, half a mile to a mile, depending on where you're at in town, generally a half a mile is pretty good. You want to go back, 3 to 6 months, unless the market hasn't changed over a year, then you can go back that far. But the market changes, so you want stuff that's pretty close together and that's pretty recent. And that's what this is showing us. Again, this is the last 6 months. This is for the zip code. And if you look at the first highlighted line here, the median price or the median value, new listings again are in that 430 range, 429.5 on this chart for the listings. And if you look at the closed sales, they're around 421, 422,000. Now that's the median. That's the average of what homes are selling for, listing and selling for in this zip code. Now, right below that, you'll see the average price per square foot. So you'll see the average listing is $290 per square foot, and the average closed sale is at $235 per square foot. And right below that, you'll have the median price per square foot. You've got the listing at $300, and you've got the closed sales at $239. So very similar on the average and the median price per square foot for this zip code. And then at the bottom, you've got the total volume of sales for the last 6 months. So, there's 10 closed sales in the last 6 months, about 4.5 million in real estate that's been transacted over there. But these square footage averages here are also good indicators when it comes to pricing your property, because you'll see smaller properties will cost more per square foot. So a 1,500 square foot property is going to cost more per square foot than a property that is 4,000 square feet, generally speaking. The larger the property, usually the smaller the amount of cost per square foot compared to the smaller properties. So these averages are just that, they're averages, because there's houses that sell that are all different sizes, all different square footages, and they just compile all of them and make an average, and that's what these numbers are, averages. But again, it's another metric that can be used to help determine the market value or the after repair value of the house that you're looking to flip. So now let's talk about some real estate math. And we've got a couple of terms that need to be defined. So your maximum allowable offer, or your MAO, is just that. It's your maximum allowable offer, and we use a formula to get to that number. Next, we have after repair value, or ARV. That is what the property is worth after it's been repaired. So it's market value, it's estimated market value after the repairs, and as we just talked about, you use the comps to determine that. Now, the formula to arrive at MAO, or maximum allowable offer, is ARV times 70 or 75% minus your rehab costs. Now, a point I want to make on that 70 to 75%, this is just a general rule of thumb. That can fluctuate however you see fit as an investor. Talk with your realtor and you guys can determine on what is safe if you want to go above that. It's just a general rule of thumb that people will use. I've seen people go 80, 85% above ARV, and they still make money. So it's all deal specific and property specific, but this is a good general rule to follow when you're trying to determine how much you want to offer on a property that you're going to purchase in order to make a profit. And the reason you take out that percentage, that 70 or 75%, that is a built-in number. It's a built-in metric that basically represents cash. And that cash is going to get allocated to different places throughout the deal, and it's just the cost of doing business. You've got title fees and escrow fees that have to get paid at closing, both on the purchase and the sale of the property. You've got inspectors to pay, you've got appraisers to pay, you've got to pay origination charges to your lender, there's taxes, there's the realtor fees if you're using a realtor. And all of that is kind of built into that number. And then you subtract your estimated cost for rehab or remodeling, and that will give you a ballpark idea of where you should be with your offer price. So in this example, we arrived at $260,000. We figured the ARV, a conservative or median value, would be around $430,000 for this property after it's fixed up. We multiply that times 75% minus our $65,000 in rehab cost, and we get to $260,000. It's basically how we got to that number. Now, the profit margin can fluctuate. It can go up or down based on lots of different variables, such as your construction costs. Did you go over budget? In that case, you're gonna lose profit. If you stay under budget and you budgeted for $65K, but you only spent $50, well, that's another $15,000 in profit you just made. Also, the holding cost. If you budget to hold the property for 6 months, let's say you do 2 months to rehab it, and you allocate 4 months to leave it on market so that you can get it sold. If you go over those 6 months, well, that's now costing you an extra $3,100 a month, or whatever your fee is from your lender to hold that property. If you sell it faster, then you save that money. So there's a lot of moving parts, and getting the math correct is important. So you want to work with a good realtor that understands property values. You want to work with a good contractor that you can count on to get the job done and to stay under budget. And you really got to keep a close eye on these numbers and the timelines, and make sure that everything lines up perfectly so that you can make a nice smooth exit and have a nice fat profit waiting for yourself at the end. So if we list this property for $445,000 and we actually end up selling it for anywhere between $430,000 and $445,000, his cost to purchase and hold at 6 months, including his cash to close of about $33,000, comes out to roughly $59,000. His cost to sell is probably going to be around 8 to 10% of the sales price, and that's going to run him another $35,000 or so. So if we sold this property for $430,000 and we subtract the cost to purchase and hold and the cost to sell, his projected profit margin is $27,000. He'll make $27,000 in profit on this deal if he holds it for 6 months and doesn't go over the construction rehab budget. And we sell it for $430,000. Now, if we can sell it for more, it's more money in his pocket. If we can sell it faster or stay under budget on the construction cost, it's more money in his pocket. And we always want more money. We don't want to have to pay more money than we budgeted, because then you're cutting into your profit there. So you really got to be on top of this and make sure that you're staying on track so that you can make as much money as possible, because nobody wants to work for free, and there's a lot of work in doing this. All right, we're getting towards the end here, but I just wanted to show you guys some sold comparables or some comps from the area that have recently sold, just so you can get another idea of what properties are selling for in this area that are fixed up and looking nice, like the one that we're going to put on market. So on the left, we've got one that's a little bit bigger, 1,660 square feet. It sold for $469,000. It's approximately $283 a square foot. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, built in 1972. So if you look at this one, it's pretty nice on the inside. They've got some recessed lighting in there. There's not any recessed lighting in the one that we're selling. So this one is, the interior finishes are definitely a touch above what we're doing, and that's why it commanded a higher sales price. It's also, you know, maybe 150, 160 square feet bigger, but it is 1 bedroom smaller. The one we're selling has a 4-bedroom instead of a 3-bedroom. But $469, that's a good price for a similar property. The one in the middle here is probably the one that's the closest to the one that we are going to be selling. This one sold for $394. This one sold fast too, if I remember correctly. I think the days on market were like 12 days. I mean, it was quick. And I think that's because they had it priced so low. I think they priced it to sell at $265 a square foot. It's 1,489 square feet. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, built in 1971. Basically the same size square footage as ours. It's 1 bedroom smaller, and again, I think they left a little money on the table, but they might have just wanted to get in and get out, and they priced it to sell, and they got $494,000 for it. So they got a good chunk of change there, more than likely. And the last one here, and there's many more in the MLS. These are just the ones that I pulled, just to show you guys a few examples. The last one is 1,740 square feet, so a couple hundred square feet larger than the one that we're selling, about 250 approximately square feet larger. It's built in 1972. It's also a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and this one sold for $455,000 at $262 a square foot. So that's an idea of the comps. You want to look at the sold comps, and you want to compare that to the market averages that we were talking about earlier. And then it also doesn't hurt to take a look at what's on market, because that's your direct competition. So you want to see what other people are asking for their properties, compare that to what people have sold those properties for, and then compare that with the averages, and you ought to be able to get in the ballpark and figure out exactly where you want to price your property at. If you want to price it to move fast, you put a cheap price on there. It doesn't mean that you're selling it for under market value or not making a profit. It just means that it's going to sell fast, because you're going to be asking less than what the other people are asking, and that's going to attract buyers to you. So if that's your strategy, to move it fast, you might leave a little bit of money on the table, but you reduce your holding costs when you do that, and you get rid of the property, and you don't have the stress of wondering if it's going to sell. So it's give and take, but that is one strategy. If you have a little bit of time to leave it on the market, you might price it a touch higher and just see what kind of action you get. If it's slow, you don't get any action, well, it probably means it's priced a little high, and we need to do a reduction and bring it down where you're going to start getting interest. But if you got a little time to burn and you want to try to squeeze every last dollar out of it, that's a strategy you can use for that. But these are the comparables. Some of them, there's many more, but this just kind of illustrates where I'm getting these numbers from, and where I'm estimating that $430,000 sale price. That's where that's coming from, is these comparables and the statistics that I showed you previously. So where does that leave us? We're getting close to being done with this remodel, and maybe I'll do a part 2 once it's finished and put the pictures up of what the property looks like after it's been renovated, and maybe even I'll do that video after it's sold. So maybe I'll get some pictures of it, show you what it looks like after it's been renovated, and then show you the sales price, and we can revisit these numbers and see how everything actually worked out once it was sold. But that's basically where we're at. Hoping to have it on market here pretty soon. It'll be 2 months since the purchase, at the end of this month when I'm filming in January of 2025. So we've still got a few months left in there to get it sold, get it finished up and get it sold, and put that money back in his pocket and move on to the next one. He's got another one that's waiting that I sold him that he just purchased, but we need to get rid of this one first so that we can focus our efforts on that next one. That's basically how your average deal can look if you're purchasing a distressed property that needs work. Considerable amount of work. This wasn't a full gut, but it was close. You know, we had to replace a lot of stuff in there, and that's why we had to get it at such a low price, was because it was going to cost a lot to fix up. If you're somebody that's interested in real estate investing, or maybe you want to buy or sell a house, visit my website or send me an email or give me a call and let's talk about it. I have a ton of resources, from contractors to lenders, title companies, inspectors. I have a network of people that I can hook you up with and plug you in with if you're thinking about going down the investing route, or if you just want to buy or sell something. Give me a call. I work with just regular people and families that want to buy or sell a property. More than happy to answer any questions. My website has a bunch of free tools on it. It's got mortgage estimators, property valuations. You can search for properties. It's directly connected to the MLS, so you can see what is in our local market here in the Austin area. If you want to search for properties, it's got neighborhood data, market data. It'll send you property alerts if you're looking to buy something. All kinds of useful information on there, and it's totally free. All you have to do is just log on to the website, create a login and a password, and you can go in there and you can do whatever kind of searches you want and use all those tools for free. And the system will actually email you, property alerts or whatever it is that you signed up for that you want to see. It'll automatically email you. And there's also a mobile app. You can download the mobile app that's connected to the website, and you can use it on your phone. And it's actually a really good app. It's almost as good as the desktop version. Of course, the mobile apps are a little bit limited, usually compared to a desktop version. But I have to say, this one is pretty strong. I've used several apps in the past for clients, for property searches and things like that, and this one by far is the best. This website and this app is the best. So go check that out. I'll also leave some links below in the description for some free downloads. I've got one for first-time home buyer. I've got one for a home buyer that's maybe purchased property before, and I've got a seller's guide as well. So if you're curious about any of that, those are free downloads. You can follow me on all my social medias, and like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.